We have a job to do. Are you ready? I'm ready.
Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here. So today I'm going to be venturing all the way back to the month of September to bring you all a very, very late movie review. And that is going to be for the film Astra, which is directed by James Gray and stars Brad Pitt, Donald Sutherland, Tommy Lee Jones, and a few other noteworthy people. So this is a movie I saw back on September 22nd, so well over a month ago. And I'm kind of glad I gave myself a little bit of time to think about this movie. I certainly shouldn't have given myself, a month and a half or whatever it's been, but this is a thought-provoking movie. It's a very interesting film that really turned out far different from how I was expecting it to be. I went into this movie expecting a, kind of interesting sci-fi adventure film that has to do with space travel, which is certainly true, but kind of hidden behind that, what's really at this movie's core that wasn't exactly present in the trailers is a deep dive into this character's mind. This person who is faced with this mission in which they believe their father's been dead for 30 years. They find out that he may still be alive and could possibly be responsible for this event that could end mankind. So he has to go out and find his father and possibly kill him. And this movie was all about what a person's thinking about while that's going on. So this wasn't just a movie that was about the adventure itself. It's about how an adventure or a mission like that can affect the person that is, helming that mission. And that was an interesting take for me. So this film wasn't necessarily as much about the adventure as it was how the person feels about what they're doing. And that's just an interesting concept that isn't explored too much. Now, this movie visually looks extremely impressive. It's the same person that did the cinematography for Interstellar, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite space, adventure film. Not that I would really say it's an adventure movie in the sense that it's like kind of a fun, journey through space. These are both, slower paced movies that are really, diving into their characters' thoughts and everything. But this movie does look beautiful. There's no denying that's probably the biggest positive about this movie is its visuals. The cinematography is great. You have a ton of really huge wide shots showing these ginormous landscapes, whether it's shots of space and the planets, whether it's shots of these ginormous, really cool ships. The visual effects are wonderful. The colors in this movie are very nice. It reminds me a lot of Blade Runner 2049. You have these really, deep contrasty colors, and then you also have these really warm, saturated colors, mainly when it comes to like the oranges and stuff like that. So this is a very visually striking film. As far as the characters go, everyone besides Brad Pitt in this movie is kind of a side character. Not many of the other characters really have much screen time in this movie. There's characters like the one played by Donald Sutherland, who I was expecting to have a lot more screen time. And these characters kind of just show up, help the main character out, and then they kind of just disappear from the movie. That was one aspect I wasn't a huge fan of. I know this movie's core is focused on Brad Pitt's character and, kind of explaining what he's thinking and everything. But one of the problems I found with his character, which is a problem I find with a lot of movies like this nowadays that are diving into these characters' minds and stuff, is that they're kind of bland characters. They're a little bit more uninteresting. They're a little bit emotionally disconnected from the audience. Now, this is prevalent in movies I've seen before, like last year's First Man, where Ryan Gosling played Neil Armstrong. That was a character that was very emotionally detached from the audience. You can tell that this character is obviously feeling certain things, but you can't exactly tell what it was all the time because there just wasn't really anything to represent that. Now, this film kind of does an interesting thing with that where there is a lot of narration coming from the main character. You don't have as much of the character actually showing their emotions to other characters and talking to them about how they feel. It's more or less just the character talking to the audience. So that is something that this movie has over other films like First Man that also had kind of, emotionally disconnected characters. So I did think it helped it out in a way, but there is a lot of narration in this film, which turns off, I'm sure, a lot of people. My brother was one person who wasn't a huge fan of the constant narration. I was okay with it. I thought it was kind of interesting hearing what a character felt, and I didn't mind the fact that this was a movie about a character by themselves in the journey of space. I think it's an interesting concept. I actually think the film kind of sometimes strayed away from that when they tried to include these somewhat unnecessary action sequences. Now, these sequences are very well filmed. You had this really cool scene on Mars where they're driving these rovers around, and there's this little shootout. It was a really cool scene visually, and I thought it was directed well. But scenes like that, and especially this one later on that involves monkeys for some reason on a ship, just feel kind of randomly thrown in. Like they're just there to have some point of conflict, so the audience who is less directed at with the main theme of the film can be interested in the movie still. For me, these scenes just felt kind of pointless because I knew what the movie was trying to do, and whenever you had these scenes that clearly weren't really about what the main focus of the movie was, it just felt kind of random and out of place. So I actually think it sort of hurt the film in a way because it was kind of straying off from what the main film was really about. Now these sequences are far and far between. They don't really appear that much in the movie. There's only a few of them, but when they were there, they did feel like they're kind of just random 5-minute scenes that didn't need to be in the movie. Now this film's conclusion, I feel like, is very divisive. There's gonna be a lot of people who, and I'm sure there is a lot of people already, who don't like the ending of this movie, the way it goes, the way that the film concludes. I can see how it would be a little bit disappointing for some, but for me, it kind of worked because the movie had a message in a way, and you're seeing this character who is obviously, like I said, emotionally detached from the other characters in the movie. We can understand, how he is always leaving his wife constantly to do missions, how he's kind of depressed because of that, and he feels detached from other people emotionally now, and that's why he's just doing this mission. He's not sad while doing the mission, or at least he doesn't come across that in his facial expressions or anything like that. He just is sad, and that's something that only the audience really knows because of his narration. So I understood the direction they were going with in the ending, and I actually kind of liked the way the film ended, but I can see where some people won't like that. Like I said, this is a very divisive film. A lot of people don't like this movie. I think it has like a 40% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is obviously very, very low. I'm kind of more on the critic side with this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. It's not a movie that I'm going to rewatch countless times. Personally, for me, as a character that's kind of diving into this into a person's mind during their mission that's related to space travel, I think Interstellar is a stronger film. I had a much more of a stronger emotional connection with that movie. But still, a strong film in my opinion. A really good performance from Brad Pitt, even though a lot of it was, narration and not really himself in the film. But yeah, still, I enjoyed this movie. I had my problems with it. Like I said, I think that there were some random scenes thrown in there. There was some parts of this film that just didn't work for me. But overall, I liked it. I think that this is a film that is worth checking out. If you guys enjoyed movies like Interstellar and kind of slower burned films like this, that's one thing I just got to get across. This is a slower paced movie, for sure. The score is something else I want to really quickly mention. This film has a really good score. It's obviously not as memorable as something like Interstellar. That film is just constantly playing with loud organ music and that kind of stuff, and it sounds beautiful. This movie isn't like that. The score in this is a lot more minimalistic, but when it's there, it really kind of helps accompany what's going on. But yeah, so I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. Very good movie in my opinion. I definitely want to watch it again. It kind of just feels like a cross between Blade Runner and Interstellar. So if you guys like both of those movies, and maybe Arrival as well, then you might want to check this film out. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Arrival. Or not on Arrival. Those are my thoughts on Ad Astra. I'll see you guys next time where I'll be talking about Rambo: Last Blood.